Let's get straight into our Friday night panel. Joining me, Sky News contributor Joe Hildebrand and Small Business Women Australia CEO Amanda Rose. Great to see you both as usual. Joe, I want to start with you. Two of your mates first up tonight. One of them, Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister.
Yes.
The other one, Kyle Sandilands, wedding buddies
I knew I was in trouble
Albo's.
tonight.
Yeah, you were going to get in trouble. You interviewed the PM last weekend for 2 years. 2 years into his prime ministership.
Yep.
Good leader or bad leader?
Look, I think he's been pretty good. Everyone knows I'm soft on him. I know him. I know he's a good bloke. I think he's been Prime Minister in some very, very difficult circumstances, most of which are beyond his control. He's got a bit of a catch-22 situation where people are crying out for relief from cost of living pressures, but any relief runs the risk of being inflationary. So it's one of those things where you really have to sort of thread the needle in your budgets and your government policy. And I think he's done a pretty okay job. I mean, I'm very much a centrist. I think he is coming back to the centre from his early days in the left. And, you know, again, I'm biased.
Really?
I wear that on my sleeve, but I think he's doing a pretty good job.
No, I don't mind you being biased. Amanda, good leader, bad leader so far, 2 years in?
Look, well, I don't know him personally, but I can say that his policies and his decisions have been destructive for small businesses, and the ripple effect is devastating to families and communities. So from that aspect, I say he's a very poor leader. He's gone back on his word. And when it comes to leadership, we want someone with good quality character, someone that literally says something and you can trust them that they'll deliver on that. You know, blaming previous governments, I get that. Everyone does that, but that's no excuse for poor economic management.
You know, all the greenies watching us have just had a heart attack with that open fire burning in the background there in your lounge room, and that will be banned forever. They're turning us off now because you're burning wood.
Good. I love wood, and we shouldn't be getting rid of it. It's a natural resource, and it's great.
I've got exactly the same wood heater as you have, and I'll be turning it on when I get home. Joe, just on the PM, I know him not as well as you, but I know him. I said earlier he seems to be shrinking a little bit into the office. I think his confidence has been knocked about, particularly by The Voice. His media performances in front of the media pack, he seems to resent hard questions, which in the past he wouldn't have cared about, but he's getting very sensitive.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of people obviously got bruised by the Voice referendum, and it was appallingly run. And I say that as a Yes supporter. I was just dismayed watching it all unravel in real time, and actually got pretty clinically depressed as a result. I can only imagine how Indigenous Australians must have felt. I think that with the PM, though, I'm always struck. I'm sometimes even alarmed by his confidence. I sometimes think he should be more worried than he actually is. But he's not a chest beater. He's never going to be that sort of tough guy, macho leader like Peter Dutton, who I also think is a great bloke and I really like. Albo, I think, is much more, again, he's much more of a centrist. I think he's much sort of warmer as a leader. Obviously, he has that history as being a sort of bit of a fixer for the left in the Labor Party, and you've got to be pretty rough and tough and have pretty strong elbows to do that. And I think he wants to sort of leave that behind him. He was also the sort of chief attack dog when he was leader of the House for the government and indeed the opposition. So, again, I think he wants to be more sort of the person he is, which is actually, you know, a pretty nice bloke who you want to have a beer with.
I'll ask Amanda about this in a moment, but I've got to start with you, Joe. Your mate Kyle, he forced his on-air partner Jackie O today to put on virtual reality goggles and watch pornography live on air on radio as if she was a male. Now, are we not in the middle of a debate about men's behaviour toward women? We're not in the middle of a debate about the damaged teenage boys watching porns having on their behaviour toward females. How do we let this stuff go to air, for God's sake?
Well, firstly, thank God it was radio and not television. But yes, I did. I came across this on their, I don't listen to Kyle and Jackie O, but I came across it on Instagram. I thought, no, that can't be right, and surely it was. Strangely enough, I was actually just talking about this with a bunch of people, a bunch of vice chancellors actually, but just talking about the imminent threat of social media. And I said, what happens when we start getting, you know, ubiquitous virtual reality? And the first thing that's going to happen is virtual reality porn. And I honestly did not think that we were there yet, but here we are. Look, I think that what you say is absolutely right. I think that is a real threat, and I think obviously the way that a lot of young kids or young boys are starting to see women, like with that Andrew Tate scumbag, you know, I think it is clearly affected by the proliferation of porn. I think virtual reality probably makes it even more of a threat. But again, Kyle and Jackie O, they do this thing just to get attention, and here we are giving it to them.
Yeah, I know, but I think you've got to call it out when I think it's grubby and should not be allowed to go to air. Amanda, your view?
It was a very deliberate decision on their behalf to do this, and they have a responsibility because they influence so many youth of today. So I would like to know, were they put up to this because they were incentivized with a financial gain, or are they genuinely that detached from morality that they think doing something like this is okay, and then to share that with the youth, teenagers and young 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds of today, because they will influence them. We're trying to protect people from this type of activity. Yes, people have a choice. However, when something like this is so blatant, give it a couple of months and it'll be normal.
In their defence, I will say Jackie O did seem to be really shocked by what she was seeing. So maybe the message was, oh my God, this is...
Well, she should have said no.
She could have said no. You make the decision. Correct. You should know this, Joe. You make the decision what's going to air, and they knew it was going to happen. They knew it was going to be risky. And I know it's their thing, and I know you say they put on a performance, but you still got to make a choice in life. And I don't mind people doing things here and there. That's what media is like. But this was actually crossing the line. And how many times does someone need to cross the line before that line then becomes normal? And then we have another line, and before you know it, morality's disappeared from society.
Exactly. Now, Amanda, this South Australian bloke who won Powerball overnight, he's won $150 million, biggest win in lottery ever. He went to work today and said he's going to keep his job. I know he comes from South Australia, but even a South Australian could work out you don't have to keep working if you win $150 million.
Look, I actually think it's very wise, right? An idle mind is not very good. So I do, because he's keeping busy. I mean, some people want to take their winnings and go and work in charities and help people. And so I think it's wonderful that he's actually, hanging around with the people he knows, and he might spend his money wisely on other things.
Well, I'll tell you what, Joe and I wouldn't be sitting here if we'd won $150 million. Amanda Rose, Joe Hildebrand, always a pleasure to catch up with you both on a Friday. Joe's off already.